There's a line on the ground that'll take you anywhere. If you want to go somewhere in particular, you gotta follow the right line. But there's a line on the ground most places, and we're gonna follow that line to whatever we might find, though it might not be just what we were expecting. There's just no point directing that line on the ground. If you let it, it just might take you anywhere.
Good morning and welcome to Houston EV Hub. We're all members of Houston Electric Vehicle Association and proud to be so. Our program is about electric vehicles in general, not just cars. Today we'll be talking about how electric cars are different from other cars. We're here at KPFT 90.1 FM and also live at kpft.org. And all our shows are in the archives for 60 days from broadcast. My name is David Lowy and they call me the host. So let's get started. We want to emphasize that we want people to call us. You can be the very first person to ever have called us on our show. This is our fourth show, but it's not a show without you. It's about bringing this information to you, helping you understand the subject, answer your questions, or listen to your experiences with EVs. So please call us regularly throughout the show, and the number is 713-526-5738. And you push 2 and you'll get through to a screener. And we'll get to talk to you and answer your questions. Today we have some announcements about Houston electric vehicle activities coming up. Some Earth Day related events. We hope you'll join us for some outdoor fun. This Saturday, April 19th, noon to 5, we'll have EV Petting Zoo at Discovery Green's Earth Day celebration. There, if you already drive an EV, you can chat with potential future EV drivers who often ask about life with an EV. Answers from current EV drivers can be helpful when making your decisions. And then on Tuesday the 22nd, you'll find us at America's Tower on Allen Parkway for Sustainability Day from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. And finally on Saturday, April 26th from 11 to 3, we'll be at IKEA on Katy Freeway for their Earth Day event. Join us with your EV or your questions, comments. At any of these, you'll see an assortment of electric vehicles. You might even get an eye-opening electric ride. What was that? All right. The subject of our show today is how are electric cars different from other cars, and we have a number of guests with us. I'm not sure how many are joining us remotely. We got 3. Does that include Kate, John, and who would be the third one, I wonder? Well, we'll find out. But first, we have a new feature on our program. We're offering a free gift from us, one of our commemorative T-shirts for this program that I'm making one at a time, or having made one at a time. So if you're the first person to call in today, I'll be able to send one of those to you, and we'll need your phone number after we talk to you on the phone. We want to answer your questions, but leave your phone number with our control booth, and I'll call you personally and arrange to get that to you. We're also doing something called The Secret Word, which is an old thing from Groucho Marx program, You Bet Your Life, where they'd have a duck come down if somebody happened to say the secret word in the broadcast. Well, in this case, we're going to tell you the word. That makes it a little easier. And the first time you hear that word mentioned in the course of our discussions, call in and you too will be able to get a commemorative T-shirt. Leave your information after we talk to you. So today, the secret word is range. That comes up a lot in these conversations. The first person who hears that and calls in and says the secret word was range, we heard it, we'll believe you if we actually said it. So right now,
well, who knows it? Something about me is not the same yet. I'm different, that's how it goes. Ain't gonna play your goddamn game. Got a different way of walking.
All right. We have people joining us remotely all the way from New York State. We have a local fireman joining us who's a member of Houston Electric Vehicle Association. And that third person, could you speak up and say who you are?
Hi, this is Robert Rolnik. I am a startup founder and former patent attorney.
Right. Great to have you because you're tying into Earth Month events and so forth. So this is a real privilege to have all of you here. We're going to start with Kate, who's a member of the board of the National Electric Vehicle Association. She's calling in from New York State or joining us remotely from there. Kate is on the board. She also serves on committees for communications and policies. Welcome, Kate. I know Kate describes herself as a mom who happens to love EVs, and that's why she has such great participation in these efforts and organizations. So welcome, Kate. Thank you for joining us. And just tell us how, in your opinion, electric cars are different from other cars.
Sure. Good morning, David. Happy Earth Month to you and to everybody listening today.
You too.
Thanks for having me back. So as part of National Earth Month, I'm so glad to be part of this conversation. And as you mentioned, yeah, I am a mom, but I'm also in the EV industry. I work on the EV fueling side of things. And as part of what I get to do every day is I get to build infrastructure for electric vehicles. And one of the things that I always find it's a great conversation piece when you talk about the difference between an ICE vehicle, an internal combustion vehicle, and an EV, is that something that makes them different is you have choice in fueling and how much you pay. So I love saving money, as a lot of folks probably do. So when you drive an electric vehicle, I feel like you are literally not over a barrel when it comes to choice of how much you pay for fuel. We always talk about gas prices and how expensive it is to drive and how much fuel it eats away people's budgets. But as an EV driver, I can choose to fuel my vehicle at home, utilizing utility rates for off-peak hours, for example, and charge my vehicle and fuel up so that I can propel my vehicle to where it needs to go for pennies per kilowatt. I can also choose to publicly charge if I need to, where sometimes there's an additional surcharge or an extra convenience fee, but it's still cheaper than gasoline.
Well, I've discovered recently that there's great disparity out there in the amount it costs to charge publicly. I charge at level 2 when I'm traveling, but I've heard from people who pay $30 to charge their car for 20 minutes at a supercharger.
And that could be true. Again, sometimes when it comes to especially DC fast chargers or superchargers, there's a lot of costs associated with putting in that infrastructure. There's also very often across the country, there's demand charges for supplying the electricity at such a high capacity and a high rate. So very often, folks who put those charging stations in the ground are passing off those additional fees to those who fuel. Now, for someone like me, fast chargers are the charging of last resort. I generally don't need to do it unless I'm traveling. And in the long run, if I do have to pay those premium highway charges, for example, at a DC fast charger, I feel like it's always offset by the fact that either I am home charging, I'm charging at work at a lower cost, or I'm using those public chargers, those level 2 chargers that often have a reduced cost.
I want to go to something that you brought up in a previous conversation as far as how electric cars are different. You mentioned that a family member of yours benefited greatly when you switched to an electric vehicle. Can you tell me something about that?
So I think you might be talking about my nephew, who is, I love him dearly, but he is on the autism spectrum. And switching to an electric vehicle for him, especially, he has a lot of sensory issues. And what made a big change in our life is when we switched to an electric vehicle, the stimulus of not having the loud, when you turn on the car, that loud engine noise, the smell of gasoline. He just responded so positively to having that quieter feeling that, especially again, those unintended consequences of switching from an ICE vehicle to a gas or to an EV made it more comfortable for him to get into a vehicle. Now, not everybody that he gets into, every vehicle he gets into nowadays is an EV, but because of that experience, the positive experience of getting into a vehicle, he was able to transition much easier when he does need to travel in gas vehicles.
I think that's really good. You also mentioned that one of your children has never ridden in anything but an electric vehicle.
The correction is he's never driven anything but an electric vehicle.
Okay.
So yes, my 21, soon to be 21-year-old son, he inherited our Chevy Spark EV that we bought in 2015. And when he turned 16, he inherited that vehicle and he learned to drive on the Chevy Spark. And he's now is the proud owner of a Chevy Bolt EV, but his entire driving experience has only been in electric vehicles. And he's never driven a gas car.
That's a privilege, but my feeling is that when there's a new driver and there's a feature in electric vehicles called one pedal driving, that it's not a great idea to learn on one pedal driving, but to go ahead and learn that braking instinct that we all need, and I have to even remind myself of these days. So we're going to come back to you, and I hope you'll chime into our discussion. Remind our listeners, the phone number is 713-526-5738, push 2, and you'll get to talk to us. If you're the first caller, there's a commemorative T-shirt waiting for you. But now let's turn to Robert Rolnik, who is doing something aimed at helping the environment with an app he's developing to keep track of the availability of renewable resources and how that can tie in with best times to charge our electric vehicles. Robert, you can say it better than me.
Yeah. So I'm Robert Rolnik. I'm the founder and CEO of Wind Everest. It is an app that I'll be releasing later in the spring that informs people who are driving and charging their cars at home the ideal time to take that charge so that they can activate wind turbines that are otherwise not seeing enough demand. And nobody quite realizes this, but in the middle of the night, perhaps as many as 15% of the wind turbine fleet can be idle here in Texas. Despite our huge size, our demand really sloughs off around 2 o'clock in the morning.
Well, I'm one of the testers of your beta version of your app, and as I pointed out to you, I usually don't charge except on the weekends. So how is that going to help your work?
So the weekends are fine. Not every day or every night in particular, since it's overnight that the winds are strongest and winds dominate on the grid. So you have a choice, I guess. If you count Friday as a weekend, you have Friday, Saturday, Sunday nights. So the idea is you could pick among the best of those nights to charge. For people who have ranges of more than 300 miles in their car, you could probably go almost a week without charging. So you could pick one of those days. It's basically a selector. So that you can choose days that are plentiful, or I should say overnights that are plentiful with wind, rather than the coal and natural gas that is commonplace.
So more to the topic today, how do you find electric vehicles different than other vehicles, and how do they tie into the work you're doing to make a more carbon-free world?
So they're different. I would like to highlight the safety feature. I've had an accident where the other vehicle actually ended up rolling over, unfortunately. They were at fault, and the car is heavier, and therefore it can sustain and maintain its momentum and certainly protects its occupants a little bit better. It has a better crush zone because the front area does not get occupied by an engine. Rather, it's a large void, and so it can compress easier in a collision.
Well, that's not true in all cases. Some cars still have
correct.
Equipment up there.
But
We're going
but in addition, it has a braking where you just pull your foot off the accelerator, and
Yeah.
as we did in the first half second prior to crashing, we actually slow down.
Yeah, that's what I referred to as one pedal driving. We're going to get back to you, but you bring up safety. And with us is John Stephenson, a member of the Houston Electric Vehicle Association. Welcome, John. You're a fireman. We've all heard of the occasional, though rare, battery fires with these cars. What can you tell us about that subject and what you've learned about better ways to fight those fires, as well as what's different in other ways about electric cars?
Well, coming from the fire side, the any electric vehicle that's on fire, until it involves the battery, is like any other car fire. It goes out just as easily if it's just the internal components of the car. Once the battery is involved, it really depends on the year, make, and model of the vehicle. The older Tesla batteries are all monolithic cells from one end of the battery pack to the other, and there's no room to get any water in there to put the fire out. Modern batteries are more of a modular design now, and there's space in there for actually to get in there and get some water in there and get the thermal runaway, taken care of.
Well, I sent you some articles about efforts being made to make those easier to fight. Something talked about penetrating blasts of water, things that can cut through. What do you think about those?
They've worked with, we have what we call a piercing nozzle, which is actually a metal tipped nozzle, and we didn't recommend using that, obviously for electrical reasons. The newest one they have out now is basically a water lance. You push it against the side of the battery pack, pull the trigger, and a water and abrasive mixture comes out, cuts through the battery pack, and actually fills the battery pack up with water.
Okay, we're going to get back to our guests, but right now we're going to take a little break. Again, I encourage you to call us, 713-526-5738, push 2 to talk. Right now, it's time for the Ready When You Are players and their weekly production of Fun with Zip and Zap. This week, in the role of Zap, will be myself, and Hippie Chick will be playing the part of the rather nervous, sometimes agitated Zip. This episode is called My Dirty Old Car. Oh.
Zap, what are you doing?
Oh, I'm just working on this dirty old car of mine.
I think you're dirtier than the car. Look at your hands. And you're sweating like a cold glass of water on a blazing hot day. Ooh, it smells like gasoline in here. Why do you even keep this thing? It's so old, it's ancient.
Well, Zip, people get nostalgic for their old jalopies. A lot of memories in there. Road trips, romance, family.
But we've got an electric car now. How about the memories you make in that?
That's true. Times are changing. Better to look forward than back all the time, I guess.
Yeah. And better if you took a bath now.
Okay. Then maybe we can try that new vegan stir-fry place. But just let me see if I can start this one up. See, this is a key. We don't even have one for the EV. I just put it in here, turn it, and sound of... Oh, excuse me, I was a little distracted. We just put it in here, turn it, and...
What in the world is that noise, Zap?
Oh, I haven't run it in so long, the battery's run down. That's the sound of the starter motor trying valiantly to start up the engine. Get that gasoline burning. But it's not going to work today. I'll have to try again tomorrow. Besides, the carburetor is probably not adjusted properly.
Okay, I'm not even going to ask what a carburetor is, or whatever you call it. We just push a button to start our EV, and we don't even have to be in the car. So it can run the heater or the AC before we get in, and there are no fumes to asphyxiate us.
Yeah, well, say, Zip, after I get cleaned up, do you want to drive us to the restaurant in the electric?
Whoa, Zap, do you really think I'm ready?
Yes, I do. I think we're all ready. All right, thank you. So that had some impressive range in our dramatic talents there. I think you'll agree. Do we have a caller, perhaps, Rico? Or we do. Oh, excitement. Oh, my. Well, we do have our guests waiting. Are they still there?
Yes, I'm here. Hello.
Oh, Aquia. Hello.
Hi.
This is
Hi.
Aquia, a professor at the University of Houston. You have a question for us?
Yes, I do. I've really enjoyed the conversations that have been ongoing on the show. So my students and I have been covering EVs and the energy transition with regards to our course for the spring. And one of the questions that keep coming up is, how does EV differ in lifestyle changes from other vehicles? I know that the first speaker addressed this in terms of having a nephew and a young son that really have loved EVs. But then to what extent does it affect you you having freedom in terms of, with ICE vehicles, you can just pop in a full station and then pump up, fill up, and then you're gone. If you move beyond the cost element, how do you really have to change your lifestyle to adapt to having an EV?
Well, we're going to turn to our producer, Colin Lowen, for an answer to that one.
Hi.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure that it changes your. You don't have to go to the gas station if you're good about charging at night. Ideally, with the Wind Everest, that would be ideal. I can't think of a way that it really changes your habits, as it were, other than that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
There are some new habits you might develop, like you no longer have to worry about leaving your car on in the garage, because we all know that that's a toxic gas that will kill you.
And you can even turn your car on remotely to heat or cool the car before you get in, depending on the weather.
Yeah, a lot of ICE does that too.
But you don't have to worry about emissions.
Exactly. And there's some other, like the ability to, you could sit for probably 3 days in an EV with the AC on, and you won't deplete the battery. Depends on the EV, but so you may develop some new habits that are
habits. That is what I was wondering, because with young people, they just get up and go, sometimes forgetting to charge their vehicles. So if you don't have enough charging infrastructure where you live, then that becomes a bit problematic. You have to drive to look for a charging station, and when you do find a charging station to charge, sometimes it depends on what is available, whether it's charging station like the Charger 1 or 2, right? The levels of charging.
Yes, there's a variety. Home charging and wall current is 1. Public charging at level 2 is higher current, and then level 3 and beyond. But I want to ask you, how does what you teach in your class about sustainability tie into this discussion?
Oh, okay. That's a good question. So we are finding out that in as much as EVs utilize a lot of materials in terms of makeup, right, over time, when you look at emissions, EVs really are lower in emissions vehicles compared to your ICE vehicles in the long run, over the life cycle of the car that you have. So it is initially if you're looking at material usage and consumption. So when you do a life cycle analysis of an EV and an ICE vehicle, starting from production, so looking at the materials that go into the vehicle, we see that they are almost at par. Emissions is almost even much more with EVs and ICE vehicles. However, when EVs are bought by maybe a consumer buys an EV, the long life cycle of utilizing an EV is actually, in terms of emissions, way lower compared to an ICE vehicle.
Well,
it's better for the environment.
I think so. We hope to hear more from you about this extensively. I'm not pressuring you, but we've talked about you being our guest next week. So
yes, we'll talk about it after the show.
It's a little pressure, I think.
Oh, okay. Please be here. We need you. No, but it would tie in greatly with Earth Week observances, and our other guest, Robert Rolnik, will be there to talk more about what he's working on. But we're going to go back now to our guest. Thank you, Aquia, and you certainly qualify for that commemorative T-shirt, and I know how to get in touch with you, so thank you. Bye. Okay, back to our expert panel here, including Colin Lowen, our producer, Kate Kruk from New York State, John Stephenson from right here, and Robert Rolnik, locally a patent attorney who's also working on an app. Anything any of you can add or talk among each other, with each other about this subject? How have you found electric cars to be different?
I'm going to bring up one thing that I always bring up, and that is during a hurricane, my EV will back up my house.
Bing. Anybody else?
That's a great one, Robert or Howard. I was going to say something to that effect too, is that electric vehicles are more than just vehicles. In some instances, that whole vehicle to grid, the updated technology where you can reuse that energy that's stored in the battery of the vehicle to power other things. It's more than just a car. And what a great concept, question that that caller just put in about the patterns of what are you missing. So for an electric vehicle, the things that you don't miss are, oil changes.
Let me interrupt you
all
there.
All sorts of maintenance.
We have a phone winner. Do I understand? Who do we have? Arlo. Hello, Arlo. No. Okay, I got a note here that said we got a phone winner, but somebody won. Yes.
He got the T-shirt. That's what he called for. That was it.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, who else? Robert?
Yeah, I'd like to comment that when you're driving an internal combustion car, you're shopping by looking at street corners. You shop by price and place. Now that you have an electric vehicle, you're shopping for your electricity by time.
I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt you. Bernard is on the phone. Hello, Bernard from New York.
Hey. David, is this a radio voice?
Yes. What's happening?
Well, this is a very interesting conversation. I didn't realize that you could use electric vehicles for other purposes.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you can plug in your appliances. You can do this in many of the cars. You can power your home. But
I just went to an electric vehicle showroom in the Lower West Side of Manhattan, and I don't know if I can mention the brand, but I never heard of the brand.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful car.
Well, we're going to be wrapping up. I know I expected you to say one thing about the electric bikes on the road. I know you don't like those. Well, I think you're gone. Okay, we're going to wrap up now. And this has been Houston EV Hub. We're all members of Houston Electric Vehicle Association. And
find us at houstoneva.org.
All right, and this is KPFT 90.1 Houston.
There's a line on the ground that'll take you anywhere. If you want to go somewhere in particular, you gotta follow the right line. But there's a line on the ground most places, and we're gonna follow that line to whatever we might find. Though it might not be just what we were expecting, there's just no point directing that line on the ground. If you let it just might take you anywhere. If you let it just might take you anywhere.